Welcome to another live stream appointment of Today's Communicators. I'm your host, Chris Reichert. I'm a video communications coach, and we are live streaming right now to 3 platforms. We're going to YouTube, to Facebook Business, and also to LinkedIn Live. And I've got a very special guest with me in the broadcast studios today. I'm really excited to dive into the topic today. I have with me, CEO and founder of I Heart My Work, creator of Agency with Jackie Arnold, and I Heart My Team Leadership, my team impact. How could I even mess that up when my program is called Speak with Impact? Team Impact. Let me please welcome Jackie Arnold, who will explain to us today how if you do one thing right, you can create unimaginable team engagement. Jackie Arnold, how nice is it to have you in the studios today? Hello.
Good morning and good afternoon, actually, for you in Italy. So fun to be here, Chris. I'm so excited to speak with you about what I'm passionate
Oh, that's
about.
great. That's fantastic. It's
Super
so
happy to
wonderful
be
to
here.
talk about what we're passionate about, isn't it? And in fact, you're up very early because I'm over here in Central European time. I'm in Italy. I'm Canadian, but based over in beautiful
Coffee.
Italy, and you are in Canada. So you're 8 a.m., right?
8 a.m., bright and early. Grab a coffee before you get started for the day. That's the sort of feel. That's the vibe we have going on here. It's the
Yeah,
morning. It's
absolutely.
raining like crazy here in parts of Ontario where I live.
Yeah, it's actually raining here too. We had a beautiful summer shower with the sunshine, because in Italy, many months of the year are not missing sunshine. So luckily that's an advantage point, but it's also definitely too hot for comfort a lot of the time. But anyway, let's dive right into the topic today. I'm really excited to talk about this one special thing that a lot of leaders could be doing in order to create unimaginable team engagement. But first off, I wanted to ask you about I Heart My Work. Now, what a beautiful name for a company, first off. And I just wanted to know, as CEO and founder of I Heart My Work, what is your big mission? What is it that you you strive to achieve, and what is your vision with this company?
Yeah, I think with a company like I Heart My Work, we have to have this big, compelling vision. And our vision is to create a currency, to advance a currency of relational wealth that creates a more equitable, sustainable, and connected world, one leader, one team at a time. And so, really, we're on this mission to unlock the power of agency in millions of current and future C suite leaders and founders by 2032. And we're going to do that by coaching leaders, introducing leadership coaching, team coaching, and educational opportunities just like this. And so when I talk about agency, a lot of people say, what is agency? And
Yeah.
it's really this ability to access and then act on the unique strengths and the wisdom within us that already exists there. And so when we're able to do that, we really sort of access this capability to reach our full potential, which is really why we're here as people to access, to grow, to reach our full potential, and then we can unlock that in others.
Yeah. Yeah, to tap into that awareness. And I mean, I have to be honest, I'm going to admit to something here, and I don't know how it's going to sound, but when I first heard of Agency with Jackie Arnold, I had to be, like I come from the entertainment industry. So show business, right? An agency, it's like my agent. I'm going to, call that person up, or I was a model many years ago. And so my model agency. But instead, when I got to understand what your company is all about, and I was able to kind of embody the whole concept of agency, it's just that it is this embodiment of having control over our emotional state, our awareness, our reactions, just being centered. That's the best way, having agency, isn't it?
It is. It's really about bringing our best self forward. And somewhere along the line, we had this idea that we didn't have that inside of us, that we needed to go externally to achieve that in some way. And to some extent, we had to do that to learn, to grow. But we seem to have forgotten that we have this wisdom, this
Mm.
collection of experiences that are unique to us that we really need the world needs for us to bring out. And very often, it's self doubt, it's stress, it's all of those things that take us away from that. And so it's really quite powerful. And if you think of agency as being a change agent or an agent of change, then that really opens up a different perspective about what's possible when you do have agency. Because when you are a change maker, then you are an influencer, right? And
Oh,
so it
yeah.
sort of opens up so many possibilities.
And I mean, by influencer, you don't just mean obviously your Instagram influencer. The people that are most influential these days are the people in positions of power. And so we're looking at great leaders today. And that's not just politicians. We're talking about company leaders that run the show in a way. And so if they're not in touch with their own agency, then what's going to happen? Like
Yeah.
what's that world look like today? What's the situation with leaders? What's the environment like? And how are you diving into that industry, into that world and helping? How are you doing that? What's it?
It's
Yeah.
a great question. And I just want to add to something. Yeah, thank you. Uh, so I just wanted to pick up on one point you just said is that I really believe that every leader is a global leader for the
Mm,
reasons you just said, is that we all have this impact in our piece of the world.
mm,
We all have a way of impacting the world to create, to nourish the planet, and
mm.
to make the world better for people and for future generations. And so I don't think we take that lightly. And in terms of what it's like to lead right now, like we are in this VUCA world. We hear that term a lot, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous.
Yeah.
And I can't
True.
even think of even today, as we every day it seems we step into more of that uncertainty, even though we've just come through the pandemic. We've
Right.
got the economy, this unstable economy. The markets are unstable, the price of living, the price of gas, the price of food, all of those things. And so for a leader, you take that all in because you're sort of absorbing the consciousness of your people, of what's happening around you, of your own situation. And so you're trying to process, oh my gosh, where am I now after this pandemic? Every leader is in a completely different space depending on what industry they were in, depending on their gender, their role, um, their race, whether you have kids, age of kids, don't have kids. Everybody is finding themselves at a different place. But one
Mm.
thing's for certain, um, is every employee now is saying, where am I? What do I want?
Yeah.
What do I want for my life? Right?
Yes, it's so true.
It's not just about the work. Employees, people, leaders, they're all sort of saying, what do I want for my life, and taking this holistic view.
And not to
Um,
mention for leaders that are asking themselves, just like the employees are, what do I want from my life? What's the next step? Where's the direction I'm going to take? They also have the pressure of all of their employees looking to them for guidance. And so that can even amount, if you're not in touch with your agency, if you don't have that centeredness about you, then that's where all of the other implications, I suppose, can come barreling out, right?
Absolutely. I mean, that's where we're seeing burnout, levels of
Mm,
unprecedented levels of stress.
yeah.
People feel lost, like they've lost their mojo,
Yeah.
but they can't put their finger on what it is.
Right.
They just know they're not thriving,
Yeah.
and that and because it is many things like you've described, it is, how do I find myself in center and I have all these responsibilities? I mean, great leaders are also great leaders of their families and of
Yeah.
their communities. And, and I also think great leaders, don't take this lightly. And so it's not easy. I think every leader's in a different spot. Um, and I think, like this is why finding, your own centeredness, agency is sort of made up of three components. It's self command, which is kind of bringing yourself to the present.
Mm.
Very often, especially when we're stressed, our mind is wandering to the future and all the things on our
Totally.
to do list and all the things we have to deliver in the future. And then we're all looking behind, right? What happened? What could I have done better? What are the lessons learned? And so we find ourselves stretched between the future and the past and not in the present, which is
Right.
where we access all of the wisdom. That's where we can be discerning. That's where we can connect with people. That's where we can solve problems. So, learning that ability to develop that self-command is so important. The second part is what I call imperturbability. It's a
Whoa.
tongue twister, especially early in the morning.
Let me try it. Imperturbability? No, I didn't.
Imperturbability. So, like, the short form of that is being perturbed, so being annoyed.
Yes.
Um, right. And so we're not very effective when we walk through the world being annoyed and being bothered and being triggered by everything that's happened. Right. We were less effective. And we all know that when we're in that state, what's happening, it's our survival brain that's triggered. And so as leaders, more than ever, we have to develop this elevated sense of rising above, of using the things that we find frustrating, annoying, as the raw ingredients that we need to get to where we're going. So it's this
Yeah.
idea, right?
As
Right? And we have this
opportunities.
as opportunities. I mean, and when you're in it, it's hard to be like, these are opportunities, right? Because you're mad and you're frustrated and you're not maybe delivering what you want to. And that's why that's a strength we have to, it's a muscle that we have to build, and we're all capable of doing it. And when we are able to do that, we have this, we're sort of floating above that. We're taking this helicopter view. And it's not that we're unfeeling, because we're still accessing our human emotions. It's just that we're not letting it permeate inside of us and get to us and take us off course, because we have a big mission.
Yeah.
And we don't have time to be, walking around frustrated, like we're kind of like in bumper cars being bumped around. We want to rise above. And then the third part of agency is flow.
Okay.
And so when we have command and we're not perturbed, we have imperturbability, then we can really access all of the wisdom is available to us. Like, we sort of just opened up the pathway, so it's available to us. So we can lean into connection. We can know when we need to slow down and go get more data and check and make sure we're on the right track. We can be more decisive. We can be more confident and courageous, and we can be more creative. And so when we're in flow with ourselves, guess what?
We're
We
in the
can be
flow
in
state with
flow
business.
with our business, with our
Yeah.
team,
Yes.
because we're showing up in a way that invites our team members to be that way. We have this sphere of energy that follows us around. And when we don't have agency, I say it's kind of like, do you remember Charlie Brown and that character Pigpen
Yeah.
back in the day? So when we don't have agency, we're kind of like Pigpen, right? Like, we're kind of walking around with this dust cloud over us. And we sort of take that into conversation after conversation, and we sort of leave a bit of that dust in each of those conversations, and people kind of pick up, they internalize that, and it takes us out of flow.
Oh, absolutely. And when you're in that state, that flow state, and there's this certain level of connectedness that you have with the people around you. And there's, where you're all on the same circuit, and it seems to be all generating towards that, the massive, the massive destination, but where it's not, where the circuits aren't frayed and they're not sending off all kinds of different sparks in all different other directions. Instead, yeah, it's an amazing flow state. So wonderful when you can achieve that. Now, okay, so you've explained what agency means, and there are the three components to that. How can leaders in an easy fashion access that? Like, do you have some practical steps that they can take in order to do that one thing right? And that way they can have great team engagement?
Well, actually, having great team engagement is really about taking that ability, which we build over time. And I teach people how to do this in my agency with Jackie Arnold program, and I also do it in my one-on-one coaching. Um, but what we want to do is take that, um, and we want to create like a metaverse in your team.
Mhm.
And so what I mean by that is we want to create this beautiful container where we put intentionally create trust and safety with our team. We lean into connection.
Yeah.
And so the idea is we want to rise above and think about this container, this metaverse that we want to create that has this energy that is imperturbable. The team develops this sense of command. They know what they stand for. They know who they are. They can they can grow together, they can make mistakes together, but they are in this sphere of safety. And so, and
Mhm.
that's different. So when I talk about, uh, engagement, so first of all, engagement levels across the globe are at 20%, which means that only 20% of employees across the globe are fully engaged, giving that discretionary effort in their work, which is surprisingly, not surprisingly, but it is an extremely low number, which equates to over, like if you think from a cost perspective, and McLean and Company has done some research on this, that for every $10,000 of salary, the cost of disengagement is about $3,400. So of your
Really?
entire pay, yeah. So of your entire payroll, that's like 34% of your costs, are attributed to employees that are disengaged.
Ah,
And we
which
spend
amounts
all
to, with the ripple effect, the lack of productivity, the lack of profit, the lack of everything for a business.
absolutely. And so it's a really important issue. And so when I talk about creating a metaverse, I know sometimes that creates like, well, we don't have time for that. What do you mean by that? We spend a lot of time on the external. Like we want to like dole out band-aids to fix engagement, right? We want to like have these initiatives. We want to have all this external stuff. We need somebody to come in. It's those people. It's all external to us. And everything with agency and everything with building a team with impact is all about going inside, right? It's all about investing in the energy.
Mhm.
And if you're a leader and you want unimaginable team engagement, then your mindset is to create this metaverse, this special place in your team. It doesn't mean that we don't look outward and we don't take lessons learned, but it is this place of safety that requires nurturing, just like any living thing. Like a team is a living system,
Yeah.
and we have to be able to nurture it and give it space. And it can feel uncomfortable because it takes time, but it doesn't take as much time as you think.
And not only time, but I can imagine that that's tapping into a vulnerable state too, to create that intimacy with the team. You can't just have that as an external, oh, we're good, let's just move. No, it has to be something where you tap into problem areas, where you're able to expose those areas and you're able to get that out on the table where everyone does feel safe and in that safe zone to be able to do that. So not just time, but it requires energy in a different kind of a way, not that productive go, 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 action type energy, but where you allow yourself to just let go, to give in, let go, and be vulnerable. Am I right? I'm
Yes,
improvising here.
no, yeah, no, I love that question because very often I say to leaders, like, you can't take people to places that you're not willing to go.
Yeah, nice. Mhm.
Right. And we've talked about this before. Vulnerability doesn't mean that I open up the kimono and I share absolutely everything and every thought and every feeling, but it is showing a piece of yourself. It's showing your human side. It's it's talking about your own lessons learned. It's talking about how you're growing.
Mhm.
It's sharing a piece of yourself. Maybe admitting you don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
I think I see over and over again leaders sort of fall into this trap of I must have all the answers because I'm the leader.
Exactly. And what I see happening, for example, over here in Italy, not passing the judgment, but the systems here, I believe, unfortunately, are trapped in a little bit of that mode where a leader will feel threatened by an employee that's maybe more talented or more qualified in certain areas. And so therefore, the very negative kind of responses take place where, there's put downs for things because that empowers the leader that feels insecure. And so a lot of these mechanisms take place, which is very toxic and very unproductive, to say the least. Yeah.
Yeah, and that happens everywhere. And what that really is fear-based. So it's not
Mhm.
coming from that place of wholeness that I'm enough. is not coming from sufficiency.
Right.
And so it shows up, the ego gets engaged, and we really operate from this place of protect. And so it's threatening to think, if you're not in a place where you have agency and you can grow, and you experience joy of watching other people grow and thrive, doesn't mean you're a bad person. Just means, that's an area of self-reflection. That's an area of growth.
Yeah.
And it's so important because we don't have time for that anymore. We have big problems in the world that we have to solve,
Yeah.
and we need more leaders to operate at this elevated level where we're just going to rise above. We just sort of like love people for where they're at, right? We start to see what's other people's stuff and what's our stuff. We can separate that out. And the ego gets engaged when we start engaging with other people's egos. That's where
Right.
we get drama, and and so we
Yeah.
just accept for what's happening. Love them for where they're at. That takes work. That takes self-work,
Jackie,
not to be triggered and pulled in.
I don't want to forget what you just said. I love that. That's where egos are operating on the same level. And
Yeah.
if we're not letting our egos engage, that's where we can be in a place of holding agency and love that person for where they're at. Love that. Love that concept. Beautiful. I'm
Yeah.
going to really,
And
really use that.
in a team, like when that happens in a team, it doesn't mean we're best friends and we want to spend time outside of work. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the respect that you have in a team for the person, for their unique contributions,
Mhm.
for the journey that they're on, and being a part of that is so special. And if you have ever experienced a team like that, it. It's magic. It's rare, but it's possible. When you say as a leader, who do I need to become in order to create this metaverse? Things start to change when you ask yourself those questions.
Amazing. So that's that one thing. It's the golden nugget that really isn't just
Mhm.
one thing. It's not like you say or do or hand in a report, that one thing. It's this concept of really embracing that state of agency, I suppose you would call it, right? In order to then be the example and to act in a way that is going to stimulate your team so that they're going to have incredible engagement, productivity, profitability, and all of the other wonderful, beautiful things that come with it for every company. Wonderful. Now, speaking about you
Mhm.
personally, Jackie, I'm just really interested to know a little bit more about you, Jackie Arnold. Now, what's something that, let's just say, not many people know about you, just maybe your close family and friends, that you would be willing to share, of course?
Oh gosh, yeah. Well, I always I don't more people than maybe just my family and friends, but one of the things that people I've been told over and over again is people love my laugh. And in fact, I would never get away with a crime because I'm certain that I would start laughing. And so it's sort of like a signature piece. People will, many places that I have worked, they're like, "We knew you were in the room. We heard you laughing. We knew you were here." And I think it's a bit special. I'm happy to be known for my laugh, maybe not for other things. But I think it comes from that sense of who I am, and really a sense of joy that I try to bring, to everything that I do. It doesn't mean I'm happy all the time, but I like to laugh, and I think that if we take ourselves a little less seriously,
Mm.
the world would be a much better place.
Oh, yeah. A much easier place, definitely. That's for sure. And what would you
Mhm.
say, in your journey to the journey that brought you to where you are now, doing what you're doing now? Was there one very important pivotal moment that was kind of that breakthrough moment in which you went in a new direction and you could say in retrospect that if that hadn't have happened, then I wouldn't be here today doing what I'm doing. Do you have one of those
Mm.
moments?
Well, you know what? This is actually maybe something many people don't also know about me, is that I was like a teenage mom. Yeah, I had a child at 18, and I think I think that was really unknowingly at the time, was a time where I really had to figure out, oh my gosh, I'm going to have this baby on my own. I want to go to university. I want to have this life. How do I take care
Mm.
of us? It was really a moment where I had to start developing my own agency,
Wow.
and figure out like how I was going to do that. And I think when I think of like the moment I was most courageous, I think was the moment I decided to step into that. And that was probably the beginning of like building that muscle. And as I look back, I think I can see so many pieces of where I was building that muscle all along. And I think in some ways, you've heard the expression like you turn your pain into your purpose. And
Yes.
I think very much agency is about that, because
Mm.
I sort of think of my life as maybe being a bit scrappy, from like the early years, you know, becoming, a teenage mom and trying to find your way. It doesn't have to be scrappy though. You can come at it from a totally different angle, and I think really that's really been the theme. And as I raise my kids, the same.
Mm. I mean, wow, yeah. That's great. Isn't it amazing where
Mhm.
unless you're asked that question, sometimes we don't often go back and think about that. What was that one moment? And then you see a pattern. Then you start to recognize, well, I wouldn't have done that because had I not learned to be so independent, to really think with that kind of that critical eye and see things in this way, have that new perspective, then you wouldn't have done this and this and this and this, and that wouldn't have led you to do what you're doing right now. So yeah, amazing. Oh, Jackie, this has been a great conversation. I usually, no, actually, I wanted to ask you first, is there something, I mean, you don't have to answer with yes to this, but is there something that bothers you, just maybe in the world today, what you see in society? Is there something that, yeah, that you're not really
Oh, what?
a big
Yes,
fan of?
yes, yes. Well, not surprisingly, I don't like bullies. I get really bothered by really closed judgmental mindsets. And I believe that's completely linked to this sort of bigger mission that I'm on, is that
Mm,
we have to rise above that. We have
yeah.
to rise above that. When we're bullies, it means we're not in control of ourselves. It means that our ego is at play. When we're judgmental, we're not being open to possibilities. And so I sort of really have this like, I live this work, and I also, do this for a living. And I think that's really important. That to be truly authentic, you can't just say you do these things. You actually have to do them. You have to be them, and that's what changes the world.
Oh, absolutely. I'm just thinking there are these two comedians. I wished I would have prepared myself better for this. I can't remember what they're called, but maybe I'll write it afterwards for anybody who's following the recording. I'll write it in the chat underneath, and that way you can see the names of these two comedians. But they do a piece where the guy is expressing everything that's going on in his subconscious and in his an emotional state that's trapped within him as he's bullying someone. So he's like, yeah, well, yeah,
Oh,
you're this and this because anyway, my dad beats me at home and I'm really insecure and I just want to push that. I want to take that out on you because I really don't know where I'm going in my life and I'm totally insecure. And it's like, it's funny because they show you probably what's going on in that bully's mind and in that bully's heart. And unfortunately, what they've had to deal with and what's brought them to do what they're doing there. And in a way, it's hilarious, but it teaches you to be so mindful of also people's scenarios and their upbringing and their background and what they've gone through. And it really brings out that compassion that maybe otherwise we would just take that episode at face value and say, what a horrible person. But instead, it's understanding. It's understanding to then overcome and to not feed those reactions. And if anything, yeah,
I mean, that's a
neutralize them.
that's a that's a brilliant example, and I'd love to see that show. But that is exactly what agency is knowing what's happening internally and being able to express yourself in a way that's productive and supportive, and knowing that you've got, getting a sense of like what that is, healing yourself in a way, bringing yourself to centeredness. And that's exactly what this is about, is we don't
Mm,
just project what we're having, we don't just react, um, And when we know that people react from that place, we can have more compassion for them
Yeah.
because we know it's coming from a place of hurt.
Yeah.
And maybe they just don't know it.
Yeah. So when you put understanding in there, it makes almost it really does neutralize it just in the energy you give towards that level of understanding for these people, right?
Yeah, because you don't have to go into your own rejection, your own fight, your own freeze, your own, you don't have to go into your own
Yes.
stress reaction when you know that's what's happening. You're like, "Oh, isn't that okay? Isn't this interesting? There's something really going on for that person, but it's got nothing to do with me."
Oh,
You know, I may
you
be the
said it.
I may be the
Exactly.
mm,
Exactly.
mm.
And instead, on the contrary, on a lighter note, what is something that really lights you up? Something that you have found that you absolutely love?
Oh my gosh. Anything that takes me back to me. So I love now walking in nature, especially through COVID, finding
Oh man.
long walks and being in nature. So anything that takes me to a place of nature and connectedness.
Mm,
And you know, and I think that's really connected to my mission is when we're connected to ourselves, when we know who we are, um, we can relate to others, we can relate to the world, and we can bring ourselves together instead of further apart. And when we're not connected to ourselves and we're not, you know, so nature is that way that just connects me and I'm just a better person.
wonderful. Wonderful. Love it.
Mm.
Would you like to end this live stream with an inspirational quote, something that is relevant to I Heart My Work, something relevant to you as a person, to your business, to what you help other people achieve?
Well, I think because it's such a hard time right now, and because our vision at I Heart My Work is really to develop this resilience within yourself.
Mm.
Um, One of the quotes I like, and it's the author is unknown, but it's when the world whispers give up, hope whispers give it one more try.
Oh, beautiful. And that pertains to any area, any industry, any person, any walk of life. Definitely pertains. Love that. Jackie
Mhm.
Arnold, thank you so much for being with me today here in the broadcast studios of Today's Communicators. This has been a very insightful, very heartfelt conversation, to say the least. So I'd love to have you back again for some updates. You know, maybe in some time where you can come back with another hot topic, and we can jump in here and have another talk about it.
I would love that so much. Thank you so much. This has been so fun.
Yes, it has been lovely. And thanks to all of you that have followed the live stream, and also for anybody who will be watching the recording. I'll be back for another appointment of Today's Communicators next Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So look out for that. I'll send out the promo, and have a great day, everybody. Have a great full day, anybody who's over there in North America, and have a great afternoon, anyone who's over here in Europe along with me. All right. Bye for now. Bye, Jackie. Thanks so much.
Bye.